This museum is a collection of military artifacts, historical artifacts, dating back to the Civil War and even some occasions beyond that, and all the way up to the present day military operations in the country through all branches of the service. My name is Michael Harris. I'm the Director-CEO of the Veterans Memorial Museum here in Fresno, California. The concept for the museum came about 1990. A fellow here in town, Charles Mungus, he was a Marine Corps and Army veteran from World War II in Korea. He realized that there was a need for some type of representation of our veterans and their service to the community and country. We do have a collection of gentlemen on display in their original authentic uniforms that made it all the way up from basic soldier or seaman, airman, to that of generals, in some cases two-star generals. So Fresno and the surrounding area has produced a high volume, if you would call it that, of flag officers that have come from farm boy to the top of their game. Well, the first one that comes to mind would be General McCarrion, Ronald McCarrion. He grew up here locally in Fresno, around the Manchester area. I believe his family was involved in the farming of figs. And so his interest got away from farming, going into the military lifestyle, and he worked most of his life and career in the Army. And he was a decorated Vietnam veteran. And later on, life became in charge of the Selective Service Program here in California. We do have a fellow, one of our astronauts. He was the first fellow to Randall Scott, not the actor, but he was the one of the first fellows to ever drive the moon rover on the Apollo 15 mission. Okay, this display here depicts David Randall Scott. He was one of the astronauts of the Apollo 15 moon landing. And one of the things that Dave got to do that made him a little bit of a historical figure was he got to drive the moon rover.
This is really a rock and roll ride, isn't it? Never been on a ride like this before. Oh boy.
Which was a little like a dune buggy they used to travel around on the moon's surface and get away from the spacecraft a little bit and see what a little bit more was out there. He was also the first guy to ever mail a piece of mail to the moon. And so he mailed a postcard to the moon, and it got stamped, delivered, returned it to Earth, and there's a postcard there on in the display there. And then we have you know, a number of other fellows on display in their actual uniforms, such as Jimmy Doolittle, the first officer to ever lead a raid on Japan after Pearl Harbor bombing.
Colonel Doolittle, now a major general, assembles his 80 volunteers before the flight. Not until this moment is their objective revealed, the heart of the island empire.
And we have his uniform on display. One of the things that's very interesting about him is he was one of the pioneers of aviation in the regards of operating aircraft with electronics. First guy to ever fly an aircraft with a shroud over his cockpit where he had to take off blind and land blind, all off the instrument flying. But it goes on and on through all different branches of the service as to what you can come and look at. And it would be hard-pressed to find somebody that didn't enjoy their visit here. Yes, we have a replica of a B-17 Flying Fortress that was used during World War II. It's a movie prop, actually, from a Steven Spielberg production, where the star in that particular episode of Amazing Stories, where Kevin Costner was a brand new young actor.
Bandits, 10 o'clock!
Bandits, 12 o'clock, coming out of the sun!
Battle position! All right, I want battle damage and casualty reports from all crew stations on the double.
We have a Gatling gun over there that was donated by a former Fresno County supervisor that used to sit out in front of the old courthouse park. It is one of the only 2 weapons that are in the facility that will actually still fire. This Gatling gun was rescued from out in front of the old Fresno County courthouse. It was on display, and shows the photograph there with it's on its pedestal, until they took down the old courthouse, and then it got rescued by one of the county supervisors, who later on ensured that it came over to us. Now, this particular Gatling gun is highly unique because it's encased in brass, and the reason for that is because the Navy decided that they needed some significant firepower on their naval vessels. They wanted the Gatling gun, but what happens to iron when you put it out in the seawater? It rusts. So they built this one, or a series of these, encased in brass, which makes it highly collectible, highly unusual, and very rare. Yes, those are miniature scale models of the type of naval vessels that would have been prevalent during World War II. And those were, they weren't made out of kits. They were actually hand manufactured from a gentleman over in Kerman, a old naval veteran. And he had a lack of something to do and too much time, so he started going from photographs as to what these vessels look like, and built those things. And of course, he did so many of them, had to find a home for them. If you look at closely at them, you can see that the decking here was 1960s vintage paneling that everybody wanted, wall paneling and so forth. So he built them with that in mind for the decks. If these little gun tubs here sort of look like a mayonnaise jar lid, that's because that's what they are. And then I'll let you focus close on this one, and you can figure that one out yourself. It's a bottle cap. So they were made out of stuff that just would recreate the look of what these vessels actually looked at. Every naval vessel, they have a captain's silver service. Now, Fresno had 3 USS Fresnos named after it. The first one was back in the 1800s, late 1800s. They had a 2-masted cargo ship, transport ship, that's been long lost to history. The second one was a USS Fresno light cruiser.
At U.S. Steel's federal shipyards in Kearney, New Jersey, a great new fighting ship nears completion. It's the light cruiser USS Fresno, named for the important California city of Fresno, located in the rich grape-growing area of the San Joaquin Valley. Here, a continent away from its city namesake, the 6,000-ton cruiser receives final touches before launching. Second of a new class of light cruisers, the Fresno incorporates structural improvements based upon combat experience. Aboard are 33 tons of radar equipment, which will enable the ship to detect an enemy through fog and darkness or beyond the horizon. On the Fresno's deck and within her giant hull, welders blend sheets of steel. The side and deck armor of this powerful cruiser will be almost 4 inches thick.
In the World War II era, and that's also gone into being decommissioned and gone. The third one was during the Vietnam conflict, where it had a tank landing ship, an LST, and that was the third USS Fresno, which is also now gone. But as time went along over the 100 years history, the silver service for the USS Fresno got passed along from one ship to another. However, technically it still belongs to the United States Navy. It is on display here in Fresno in our museum. This display here on the end, and what it is, it's a depiction of fellows that were killed during the Vietnam War and that were personal friends of our staff here. The young fellow here, Mr. Bill Settle, was my everyday high school best friend. I introduced him to a young girl that lived down the street from me. They immediately fell in love. He abandoned our friendship and went off and joined the Army so he could have a paycheck and they could get married. Well, he didn't last very long in Vietnam and he was killed there. I never forgot him. As I said, he was my very best friend. Another classmate down here, and the other fellows that are shown are classmates of other staff members that we all had as personal friends. So this one's a near and dear and an emotional one, and as a tribute to those folks that never came back from that war. This is the National World Headquarters of the Legion of Valor of the United States of America. Now, the Legion of Valor is someone akin to a fraternal organization. It consists of those military personnel that have been awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor by the President, very exclusive, or the second medal down, the Distinguished Service Crosses, the Navy Cross, and the Air Force Cross.